From Christ the King High School in Middle Village, Queens, the Varsity Media Sports Network presents the Brooklyn Queens Diocesan Championship game, featuring the second-seeded Terriers of St. Francis Prep and the top-seeded Royals of Christ the King. This showdown is presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank and sponsored by Leeds Brown Law, protecting workers' rights on and off the job. Well, good evening, everyone. Dylan Butler here with John Perez. And John, that's what we're playing for here tonight in a packed Christ the King High School. The top two seeds, clearly the two favorites coming into this one. It was the game that we and everyone else expected to see. Lo and behold, we are here for it.
Yeah, it is the biggest game for both of these teams to date, and something that both of these teams have been fighting for the entire year. Obviously, we know what it means beyond today, but to hoist a Brooklyn Queens championship is never an easy feat. Both of these teams have gone at each other neck and neck, and I know that we'll look at the highlights in a moment, but this is what you play for. Nights like this, I know we joked about it the last time that Christ the King and St. Francis Prep played, that it was like the entire borough of Queens was here. Well, the whole city's here tonight. They've been packed in since a couple of hours ago, amped up and ready for this matchup. You
mentioned the history of this game and these two teams here. Well, Christ the King certainly, with their rich history, a little bit more in tune to being here, right? 11 Brooklyn Queens championships and 14 appearances since this current format was established back in 1996. Their last title game appearance, you go back to 2018, a 2-point win over Archbishop Malloy, where Tyson Walker, now at Michigan State, had 18 points, and Kofi Cockburn had 13, Ryan Myers 11. A guy named Cole Anthony went out, balled out for 32, and that was in a losing effort for Malloy. So Christ King, pretty much this is part of your season, like you expect to be here. For St. Francis Prep, not often the case. The Terriers, although they are back-to-back defending champions, you've got to go back to 1997 for their first appearance in this game. They've been in this game 4 times. They've won 3. They won it last year. They won it in 2020, but also 1997. You go back to the old Bishop Ford High School. Tremendous game that time. It was Matt Fryer who did his thing at the College of St. Rose, having an incredible game against a guy named Eric Barkley. Of course, we know what he went on to do, but a big win that day for the Terriers. These two teams have not met in this game since that point.
No, and it's been quite a while. And how many teams back in the day could say that they slowed down Eric Barkley? Not a lot. It's a great rivalry that's brewing. St. Francis Prep, and we'll talk about the key players, but they haven't had a player like Josh Pasquarelli in quite some time. We always talk about the rich history when it comes to Christ the King and their players. Well, St. Francis Prep, they've got a storied history as well, but none better than Pasquarelli over recent years and what he's been able to do for this squad. It's a game where St. Francis Prep knew that they would have to get through Christ the King. Well, they've got the Royals right in their sights and poised to clinch another BQ championship.
We'll show you how both these teams got here, and you can see the Brooklyn Queens Diocesan playoffs chalk in the sense that, the Terriers beat Malloy, and then Christ the King needing overtime to beat Zavarian. That was nearly a huge upset. The 4th-seeded Clippers, but there you see it there. The top 2 teams advancing to the Brooklyn Queens playoffs. John, you mentioned before, it is the 3rd meeting this year, and the first 2 meetings in the regular season followed a very similar script. We bring you back right here in Middle Village. You see December 20th, just before the Christmas break. There is Josh Pasquarelli stepping out. A deep 2 for Pasquarelli. The Terriers got off to a really good lead. In fact, had a halftime lead as Hao Chen steps out and knocks down the triple. But a huge third quarter, a 17-2 third quarter for the Royals. That was Markel Alston stepping out for 3. Another triple as well. Bryce Merchant knocking it down in a 54-43 win on that day. We fast forward about a month later in Fresh Meadows, and Devin Vanterpool knocks it down. Look at Veer Anthony just coming right down, pulls up, gets the friendly roll there, and this was back and forth as well. Another lead at halftime. Pasquarelli steps out for 3. The Terriers were up, but a big second half again, and Vanterpool was all over it. He was getting rebounds. He was getting loose balls. You see the pass down low for Brandon Williams with the flush and the foul, and the Royals win on the road 78-72.
And Dylan, the big similarity for both of those games was Christ the King knows how to close out a game, and how do you beat their depth? They've got so many guys that you don't want shooting the ball if you're the other team or if you're St. Francis Prep. They could beat you in so many ways, and that's something that the Terriers are going to have to work on, and I know that they've been working on since we last saw them in person against Cardinal Hayes, looking to close down a victory and make those winning plays when it matters. Obviously, that will be the biggest key tonight for the Terriers.
St. Francis Prep 19-7 on the season, 12-5 in Brooklyn Queens play. Christ the King 21-4, 16-1, and the Royals, they have been on a roll. 9 straight wins since that home loss to Stepanak, 68-64, January 22nd. And a run like that, Joe Arbitello said, kind of gives him that feel that this has that championship caliber taste to it for this team, that they're able to rebound from a tough loss, from adversity, and come around and close out this season. And again, it wasn't an easy road, right? Like after that Stepanak game, you had to play a makeup game at St. Peter's, which he thought maybe his team would struggle right after the Stepanak game. They did not. They won that game handily. And then you're at Xaverian, at St. Francis Prep, at Malloy, right? These are really tough venues to play. Then you were home for Lachlan Cross and Scanlon, and then, of course, that overtime win over Xaverian in the Brooklyn Queens. It's a little bit of a different look for a Christ the King team that we thought during the year, especially early in the year, they were the deepest team in the league. I think they still are, but you're missing a few of those key pieces of Brandon Williams and Markel Alston, 2 starters, currently suspended. Kyan Anthony, who's coming off the bench, giving some minutes. He has since transferred to Lehigh, but you get the feel that these guys, they're just like next man up mentality. We're gonna battle. We're gonna fight. You heard Jose Alvarado. We'll talk more about that as this broadcast goes along. He had his jersey retired before the start of this. He said, once a Royal, always a Royal. And that feeling, I think, is pretty strong within this group.
Well, look at the culture that Joe Arbitello cultivated here at Christ the King and what he's been able to do. And I think he told us earlier this year that this was the most unselfish team that he's had, not just on the hardwood, but off. And that there's not one big hero that claims all of his shine. So, having said that, when you've got a team that's unselfish, that is willing to give up the ball and make the better play, it's tough to beat. And like we saw in those 2 highlights against St. Francis Prep, Christ the King knows how to close out a game. What I'm looking forward to in this game is, Arbitello said, he wanted to know how they responded after the loss to Stepanak. Well, they go on and win 9 straight. I'm interested to see how they respond after a gutsy win against Xaverian, which is a statement to say we can win these close games. And how they come out early on against St. Francis Prep will be the key tonight.
Let's take a look at our players to watch in this game, and really no surprise for the Terriers, right? It's the player of the year in the Catholic League, Josh Pasquarelli, bound for marriage. That's another thing that hasn't happened in quite a long time. You got to go back to probably Drew Samuels, and that was when the league was split, or those voting was split from Brooklyn Queens to the Archdiocesan. So Pasquarelli, obviously a huge part. And Vera Anthony, great to see him back and healthy. When we last saw them, banged up, hurt his forearm. So good to see that he's healthy as well. But obviously, as the Terriers go today, these 2 will lead them there.
A vaunted 1-2 punch for St. Francis Prep, and it just goes to show the leaps and bounds that Pasquarelli's made and how he's improved as a ball player over the last few years. The best senior in the league, and certainly most deserving for Player of the Year. He has been fantastic for the Terriers.
And we take a look at the Christ the King players to watch in this one as well. And again, 2 guys that we have seen do a lot of damage, and especially against the Terriers. Vanterpool, I feel like every game that we do and Christ the King wins, we're speaking with Devin Vanterpool afterwards, and Brandon Gardner as well. Madison Square Gardner, the St. John's bound senior, maybe, along with Vera Anthony, 2 of the biggest snubs in the all-league teams. We can speak more about that as the broadcast goes along, but 2 guys, 2 seniors, you're led by your seniors, and these are 2 guys who have done a big job leading Christ the King this season.
And Vanterpool doing a fantastic job running the point recently as well. He can do it all on both sides. A very versatile player, and Gardner, like we mentioned, can jump out of the gym.
Let's take a look at the starters for both teams, and today's starting lineups are presented by Leeds Brown Law, dedicated to pursuing issues of wage and tip theft. Very similar starting lineups. The only big change here for St. Francis Prep down the stretch was Big O, Ousmana Sacco, the freshman, replacing Hao Chen in the starting lineup, and it's been this group the entire season. It's been Veer Anthony, Nigel Moore, Pasquarelli, as well as Tyler Michelle and Ousmana Sacco. For head coach Jimmy Lynch, in his 6th season out of St. Francis Prep, a 1999 graduate. Hey, he was on the JV team the last time these two teams played in the Brooklyn Queens championship game. There you see the last year's Catholic League Coach of the Year. Now let's take a look at the starters for Christ the King, and the Royals roll out a very similar starting 5 as well, as we've seen down the stretch. TJ Oliver stepping in, and he's going to be the last Royal to wear that number 10. Devin Vanterpool, Dwayne Pierce, Pong Quinfong, and Brandon Gardner as well. Totally unselfish team. Nobody averages more than 10 points a game, and this entire group is between 8 and 10 points a game as well. For head coach Joe Arbitello, in his 15th season, in 1995 graduate of Christ the King, recently having won his career 300th win of the year, and this year's Catholic League Coach of the Year.
When we spoke to Arbitello earlier this year, he said he'd be happy to win 1 or 2 city championships his first 5 years. Well, 15 years at the helm, more city titles than that, a federation championship to boot, and 300 wins. He's been fantastic.
Our officials for today's game, Warren Barfield, Arnold Saunders, and Steve Salucio. Just about set for the start. Let's take a look, John, at the keys to victory for both of these teams here as the lineups are being introduced to this capacity crowd here in Middle Village. For Christ the King, it's about limiting St. Francis Prep's ability to shoot the 3, and they shoot the 3 really well. A lot of different guys can knock it down from beyond the arc, stop St. Francis Prep in transition, and make shots. They were 0 for 13 from beyond the arc against Bavarian. They cannot repeat that. I don't think they will. I think they're going to shoot it a lot better here tonight. For St. Francis Prep, team effort on the glass. It has been all season long. Make them defend multiple actions. And listen, enjoy the moment. Have fun. There's not every day that you're in a championship game. So enjoy the moment is what Jimmy Lynch is saying.
I wish we had a telestrator, and that's something that we'll talk to the finance department about for next season. But enjoy the moment and have fun is 100% the way that St. Francis Prep should be looking into this game. It's not a game where you have house money, obviously. You want to win it, and you feel that you have the team that can get it done. But when it came down to closing out those games against Christ the King or Cardinal Hayes, St. Francis Prep looked a little tight, looked as if they were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. That's something that they're going to try and fix today, and just have fun doing it. And if you have fun, you execute, you'll be a champion at the end of the day.
Speaking about having fun, how about this moment we had before the start of this game where we had the jersey retirement there. You see Joe Arbitello, the principal head coach here at Christ the King High School, addressing this capacity crowd, and there is Jose Alvarado getting his jersey retired. What was really cool, I think, about this, too, look at this. He is flanked by several of his New Orleans Pelican teammates.
Yeah, you've got Dyson Daniels, Garrett Temple, Brandon Ingram, who got a nice ovation, too. I don't think I've ever seen Jose Alvarado in this gym and not smile. I mean, just his smile can light up the room. A huge Jose chant, all that he's meant for this program, too. Former player of the year, city champion. He has done it all and much deserving to be the first Royal to have his number retired in a very historic past.
Which is amazing when you think about it, right? Like all of the different guys. We mentioned Barkley in the beginning of this, and Omar Cook, Lamar Odom. I mean, the list can go on and on. Incredible players, Raleigh Alkins, but it is Jose Alvarado who gets his jersey retired, and so cool that I think so many of his teammates also. Look, they're in town. They're going to play the Knicks tomorrow night, but it was, I think, really nice that they were able to come out and share this moment. I mean, they could have just stayed back in Manhattan, right, had a nice meal. They joined their teammate here at his former high school, and a ceremonial A ceremonial pregame tip. And Phil McBride being honored as well. And we are just about set for the start here. A little bit later than we expected, but this one should be a tremendous game. The Brooklyn Queens Championship, largely for seeding purposes, but listen, a lot on the line here for both of these teams.
Dylan, tell that to both of these teams on the bench. They're not playing as if this is a seeding
100%.
game. They're looking for that trophy.
100%. Set to go. Arnold Saunders set to tip this one off. Sacco and Gardner, and the opening tip goes to the Royals. There is T.J. Oliver handing off to Devin Vanterpool. He felt right at home with all the NBA guys. Right?
St. Francis Prep is going to have to do today one of those keys that we didn't put up there, but an obvious statement for Prep.
Pasquarelli harassed by Vanderpool, gets it to Tyler Michelle. And there is Veer Anthony, that throwback hard-nosed point guard, stolen away by Vanderpool. Vanderpool goes end-to-end, layup is good.
We don't have a defensive player of the year, but it's hard to say that Vanderpool is not that in the CHSAA, and you see why. He reads the passing lane so well, and of course, when nobody's in front of him, an easy deuce.
He is always getting the other team's top player. That's the case again. Look at the freshman stepping out. Osmana Sacco knocking down the triple.
He's really extended his range over the last couple of weeks, and St. Francis Prep will take that as Pierce misses on the inside.
And he defended Gardner there really well. Here comes Pasquarelli. Hands off Nigel Moore. Three-point attempt. Rimmed out. That was again Big O, they call him in Fresh Meadows, and here comes Vanderpool, guarded by Veer Anthony. Maybe a little bit of a push-off, steps back, and he gets the deep jumper.
Like a matador waving a cape. Devin Vanderpool getting some separation and canning the triple.
6-3 early for the Royals here in this Brooklyn Queens Diocesan Championship game. We're so glad you're able to join us here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Tyler Michelle, a deep two.
Dylan, if you remember in the first matchup here at Christ the King, it was really Michelle and Nolan Raymond who had a really good first half for St. Francis Prep.
Pong Quinn Fong steps up, buries the triple. He had a huge end of that semifinal game against the Clippers. In fact, if it was not for his deep jumper that helped force overtime or really give his team the lead, and then they dunk late, maybe they're not playing in this game. There's Veer Anthony getting to the basket.
Hey, good to see Anthony's healthy again, too, after hurting that left arm of his against Cardinal Hayes. And St. Francis Prep is going to need him if they want their first title since many moons ago.
Well, in this meeting,
well, yes,
they are the back-to-back defending champions in this Brooklyn Queens Championship, separated by that 1 year, of course, in 2021, where there was no game played because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Over the back is called on Gardner.
I'll take my demerit there, Dylan. I apologize for looking ahead, but obviously this is the first step of 2 goals that St. Francis Prep has this year.
Yeah, they beat Lockland last year 68-49 in that BQ championship. You go back to 2020, they beat Zavarian by 1, 57-56 for their first championship since 97 when Matt Fryer out-dueled Eric Barkley back at the old Bishop Ford High School. Missed that gym, missed that school. Veer Anthony for 3, no good. Gardner tries to get it ahead. Vanderpool skies to get that loose ball. And a foul was called on the floor. Foul on Anthony. Veer Anthony's first and the team's first, and remarkable to think, but the fans, John Perez, still coming in.
Well, there's nowhere to park, and I've only taken the M train for, 25 years, and it's not the speediest of line, especially on a President's Week vacation week.
I've legit never seen the parking lot as crowded as it is here tonight. Vanderpool steps out, front rim, that 3 attempt, and here come the Terriers the other way. Veer Anthony, the eyes on Anthony, but how about the block? The foul, though, will be called on Pierce.
Well, you see the athleticism of Pierce. Thought that he had all ball, but love the aggressiveness of Sacco. And, I know that he's only a freshman, but Jimmy Lynch has to look at him like he's an upperclassman. We'll take another look as St. Francis Prep runs the break. And this is something that they do so well. Get up the floor very well. Sacco, pretty feed down low. And
I thought great placement there as well, right, by Sacco as well, getting himself in the right position to accept that pass. And, man, has he grown right before our eyes this year. Again, just a baby coming in, right, age 14, and had to earn some minutes, even though he had that big rep coming in out of middle school in the AAU ranks, and has done well and earned it as well. He's that guy. It's cliche to say, right, but he's that guy who's in the gym 90 minutes before practice, just working on his individual stuff before practice starts.
And the coaching staff was really surprised with his passing ability when he came to campus, too, and that's not something that you get out of a big at such a young age. So if he's passing at this level and can shoot the three, he's going to be one of the top players to watch.
Kinfon goes to the basket, fouled on his way up by Sacco.
He had Gardner down low for the lob, didn't throw it up, and either way, fortunately, got a chance to go to the free throw line.
Saw some pressure there by the Terriers, and Christ the King able to break it fairly easily, as there's Pong Quinfong.
First time seeing the man bun in person.
Yeah.
You used to pull that off, right, Dylan?
I did have more hair then than I do now. Never did pull that off. I had a mini, not a mini mullet, I would say, but there you see some of the offers as Kinfon goes 1 of 2 from the line. 10-9 Royals early lead here, midway point of this first quarter. Michelle guarded by Pierce. Top of the key, Sacco. Nice flash. Look at a block there by Gardner, as that was Faison who flashed to the foul line. Pasquarelli comes away. Tough jumper by Pasquarelli. Back rim no good, and Gardner comes away with the rebound. Royals look to push. Here's Vanderpool. Swings it. Oliver. Step. Gardner had to pull that one down. Off glass, no good. Oliver chasing it down, stays with Christ the King. It's Pierce. There's that lob inside to Gardner, and he'll get the basket.
Right place at the right time, and Christ the King using the height advantage that they have with Gardner down low.
12-9 the lead for Christ the King. The Brooklyn Queens championship game. Tyler Michelle didn't make that layup, and the Royals turn it over. They go the other way. First replacement here for Christ the King, or sub, I should say, as Kinfon goes to the bench, replaced by the sophomore Jaden Ramirez.
And you can only imagine how proud he is, obviously, Jose Alvarado's cousin, to be in attendance and see his cousin have his jersey retired and make that one of his goals as well.
We expect to have an opportunity to speak with Jose Alvarado halftime here, so stick around for that. Fear Anthony in among the bigs, and it was batted away by Pierce. It'll stay St. Francis Prep ball. 1997 wasn't just the last time that these two teams met in the Brooklyn Queens Championship, and the only time, I should say, is Fear Anthony misses the three. The Terriers would go on and play for the city championship that year. That was their last trip in 97, losing to Ron Artest and LaSalle over at Fordham that day. Down low is Gardner, defended well, doesn't get the dunk. Sacco, man, terrific defense. We go the other way. Pasquarelli looks to push. Pasquarelli pumps the brakes, nearly loses it. It'll be a jump ball. Great job by Vanderpool, who wants to show you that he's been working out lately.
Boy, what can you say about Devin Vanderpool that hasn't already been said about his defense, too? Doing a good job. It's not easy to get in front of Pasquarelli, and yeah, flex on him, Devin. He just cuts down lanes so swiftly, Dylan.
There, Anthony, high off glass, no good. Anthony struggled here in the regular season. I mean, look at Dwayne Pierce just parting the seas to get to the basket.
St. Francis Prep didn't get back on that one, but a foul before the bucket.
Okay.
Michelle.
So Michelle's first and the team's third. Ramirez told, hey, listen, tuck the jersey in, bud.
And he should know that because that is strictly enforced here if you're a freshman or junior.
Vanterpool out to Oliver. Great cut by Pierce for 2. He'll get the basket after all. Been so impressed with Dwayne Pierce, man. He can play so many different roles, especially on this level. Going on to play at Iowa State as well. Hao Chen steps out for 3. Short. And here come the Royals the other way. Ramirez the pass. Gardner inside. And a timeout by St. Francis Prep as the Royals have opened up a 16-9 lead.
And, you know, Brandon Gardner, his size is just such a difference maker for Christ the King and what they're able to do and get up and down on the floor. Now, he's had Oliver and a couple of his guards throw it up as if he's Yao Ming's stature, which is obviously not the case. But when you've got such a big presence like that, he can do so many things well. He could attack the rim. He could defend the cup. He does a great job getting up and down the floor, something that Mike Anderson and the rest of his crew are going to be happy with for St. John's next year.
If you are not paid weekly by your employer, you may be able to sue. Contact Leeds Brown Law. Today, there you see the website there for Leeds Brown Law. What we've seen, too, and we've obviously done more than a handful of games on both of these teams, it feels like every time that Jimmy Lynch calls a timeout, there's a response by his Terriers. Speaking of what you need to do during the break, you need to subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel. A lot of big games coming up here in the playoffs, the intersectionals around the corner, the Archdiocesan championship game tomorrow. We'll be on the call for those as well. Subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel.
If you're a college basketball fan that can't wait to see your recruits or your commitments, this is the place to be. Whether it's North Carolina, Iowa State, St. John's, UCLA, Varsity Media is going to have the entire coverage of the CHSAA playoffs from quarterfinals on. DNA matchup as well.
Pasquarelli, there is that response. A big triple, his first 3 points of the game for the Catholic Player of the Year.
And the future Red Fox as well. And boy, do the Terriers need him to heat up.
He led his team with 19 in that first matchup, but it was a quiet 19 as well. Pierce, no good. Rebound goes to St. Francis Prep. They look to push. Here comes Faison. Shot clock is off. Faison to the hole. Defended by Ramirez. Doesn't get the bounce, but the freshman will go to the line.
I like them going to the basket there. Now, most teams will say slow it down, take the last shot, go into the second quarter only down a bucket. If so, try and catch Christ the King on their heels, get them off balance, and see if you could steal a couple of points. And that's exactly what the Terriers had in mind. And Faison now, the freshman, has to knock in his free throws.
4.1 points per game for Troy Faison, who he will need to, it was amazing, too. He started the year, played freshman football, right? Didn't end the year there, right? He was up on the varsity, and he jumped right into varsity basketball this year as well. So a 2-letter varsity athlete having just walked in to the school this year. He knocks down both, and you see here a little bit of a 2-2-1 look of a press here for the Terriers, and it results in Faison picking that pass off. 3-point attempt, and Pasquarelli buries it. And the Terriers with a 17-16 lead. TJ Oliver's runner at the buzzer is no good. How about that for a response for the Terriers?
Textbook zone defense right there. Fantastic job by the Terriers, picking the pocket and getting the bucket back. I mean, listen, when you've got Pasquarelli with some wide open floor, he's going to knock down the three. And a great response. And you said it before, Dylan, as we take another look, Pasquarelli, I don't know what Jimmy Lynch is saying, but all those magic words work in the timeouts. What a response by St. Francis Prep.
Terrific game to this point. 8 minutes in the books. It is St. Francis Prep with a 17-16 lead. You're watching the Brooklyn Queens championship game presented by Maspeth Federal right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
We welcome you back to Christ the King High School here in Middle Village, Queens. Dylan Butler, John Perez on the call. 8 minutes in the books, and St. Francis Prep, they needed a timeout to stop the Royals' run. They not only stopped their run, they went on one of their own, and they have a 1-point lead going into the second quarter.
And that's what great teams do. They find a way to get a stop, slow themselves down, calm themselves down, and answer back. And that's exactly what they did, and it started with their defense.
It's the Brooklyn Queens championship game. The winner not only gets that shiny trophy across the way, but they're also the top-seeded team from BQ going into the intersectional playoffs. Gardner spins, turns, Hao Chen gets a piece. It'll stay, though, with Christ the King.
Hao Chen, another player, too, that's grown before our eyes over this season, too. Not intimidated, an underclassman, has really played himself into significant minutes for the Terriers.
He was a starter at the start of the year. Remember, too, he was replacing, or he had to kind of back up a Jaden Daughtry a year ago, first-team All-League player. Pierce on the lob, and back out to Quinfon, no good. Look at the putback by Bryce Merchant.
Merchant's one of those players that can win you some games by doing the little things, getting the offensive rebound and stealing some points back.
Big triple for Vier Anthony. I was about to say, you need to get him going against the Royals. Big three there, as it's now a 2-point lead.
Yeah, Anthony, a guy, also one of those harder working players that's in the gym all the time. Interest from Manhattan, Robert Morris, and the offers will only continue to grow for Anthony.
Really thought he deserved to be on one of the all-league teams this year, as did that man who missed the three, Gardner. Vier Anthony. And by the way, I think you owe me some roses, because we did, this same place, have a bit of a wager. I told you there'd be no Royals on that first team. There was not.
I'll go tonight.
Yeah,
I'm not going to wait for you in the parking lot, but I'll go tonight.
I didn't have to twist the arm there. No doubt about that.
The best pizza ever?
Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
I bet you there'll be a team that wins tonight.
Yeah, hey. I was surprised that Gardner didn't get on a team either, and so were the St. John's fans. Good thing those St. John's fans are so cool, calm, and collected and level-headed.
They always are. Vanterpool for three. No good. Quinfon, a second bite at the apple. No good. How about a third?
And a flex as well. St. Francis Prep has to box out. They've got to box out because Christ the King has the definite height advantage, and rebounding, obviously one of the bigger issues for an undersized St. Francis Prep team.
One of the keys, right? Jimmy Lynch mentioned, and in fact, I think almost every game that we've talked to Lynch, it's been a key as they foul off the ball called on Vanterpool, his first and the team's fifth. And you heard from Lynch, right? It's got to be a collective rebounding. Everyone needs, he doesn't need anybody to have necessarily 10, 12 rebounds, but everyone's got to get a few.
Right.
Pasquarelli, he heated up there late. Good defense there by Gardner. He'll bring that as well. Just a freak athlete. St. John's fans want him there now. What a terrific cut. Michelle, he might have got hit too on the way inside, but the look by Veer Anthony, and Michelle gets the bucket.
Kind of a little bit of an old school type feel to this game. Not a lot of fouls unless it's an egregious one, and let the kids play.
Vanderpool faked the three, uses the glass for 2. 6 early on for Vanderpool. Pasquarelli inside, rejected. Big O, the putback.
He just always seems to be in the right place at the right time, Sacco. And there he was again.
That's the guy who's recruiting I'm going to be really interested in going forward. Jimmy Lynch says he's got that high major potential. Here is Vanderpool to Kinfong. Spins, turns, off balance, no good. Ripped away by Veer Anthony. And now the Terriers have numbers. Anthony tried to split the court, get it to Michelle, taken away. Here's Oliver up and under.
Good job by Oliver to slow down and try and draw contact. Saw it wasn't going to come, was able to finish anyway. A veteran crafty move by Oliver.
24 all here as we approach the midway point of this second quarter. The Terriers led twice, and there's a turnover. Miscommunication there as Pasquarelli was telling Sacco that he should have cut toward the basket, and the ball went the other way. But St. Francis Prep had a lead at halftime, both of the first meetings, only for Christ the King to have a big second half and win.
Well, and we laud what Jimmy Lynch says to his team. Arbitello knows his team better than anyone else, and he always pushes the right buttons. But I think the thing that separates Arbitello and why he's always a Coach of the Year candidate as Pierce is going to get fouled is he knows what buttons to press, but he toughens his teams up to make adjustments in the second half.
Michelle picks up his second and the team's fifth. Fouls aren't an issue yet for St. Francis Prep, but Veer Anthony has 2. Tyler Michelle has 2. They're not the deepest of teams, the Terriers.
Right.
Pierce knocks down the first. We mentioned before, going to Iowa State, a shot maker, a facilitator. You see he's got a big body as well, averaging 9 points, 4 rebounds per game. Knocks it down from the foul line at a 74% clip.
You know, the kind of thing that I like too, Dylan, this year, and we've seen it across the league, is players making commitments before they have to because they feel comfortable with programs.
Michelle for 3, no good. Rebound goes to Gardner.
And it just takes the pressure away from them.
What's the call? Charge! And it's Faison to draw it. Here you see it again.
Yeah, good job by Faison setting his feet. Oren Barfield, the official on the near side, calling the charge. And
listen, you know that Faison plays football because he is all of 5'10", and here comes a 6'9", 215 Mack truck coming at you.
It's got to be instinct, right, to wrap up a player like Gardner.
No one's wrapping up Pasquarelli right now. That's his 3rd triple of this first half as the Terriers regain the lead.
He's on fire right now, and you give him a little bit of space, he'll make you pay.
Pierce, it's Sacco out on him. Vanderpool now. Faison out. Both these teams, they will play you man-to-man. There is no, unless they need it, there's really no zone play. Look at Vanderpool finding a way to the basket.
Probably the second or third time we've seen St. Francis Prep not have somebody home, and by home I mean underneath the basket, and Christ the King getting another bucket.
That's 8 now for Devin Vanderpool, a senior who is unsigned right now. Foul on Gardner, and that's his 3rd. We were speaking about foul trouble before. So Gardner goes out, Merchant comes in, and remember again, it's Williams, the UCLA-bound senior, and Alston who are suspended. So you have Gardner in foul trouble. You don't have Williams at your disposal. Suddenly, a lot of that size kind of goes away.
And it adds to the responsibility of a player like Bryce Merchant, who will get those extended minutes. And you'd have to imagine, obviously, Gardner's going to sit for the rest of this half and probably the first 4 minutes to start the third quarter, if not more.
Faison will not be phased. He's now 3 for 3 from the foul line.
Nicely done. And don't forget what he's been able to do on the defensive end as well. Obviously, that pick six with quotes that led to the three-pointer before the end of the first quarter, and doing a good job through the charge. Gardner, right.
So Veer Anthony to the bench. Nigel Moore back in. 29-28, the lead for St. Francis Prep. It is the Brooklyn Queens Championship game presented by Maspeth Federal Savings right here in the Varsity Media Sports Network. Dwayne Pierce, guarded by Michelle. Tries to go baseline. It goes inside to Merchant. Merchant, high arcing pass. Oliver pulls up. Doesn't get the friendly rim. Rebound goes to Chen.
Fantastic job by Chen on the box out. Had Merchant all over him. Able to secure that rebound.
With Anthony out, the point guard duty will be shared here. Remember, too, Pasquarelli can do that. He'll be expected to do that on the next level for Maris, the kind of that combo guard for John Dunn. Michelle goes baseline. What a great look inside, and Faison gets the finish. And Nigel Moore, Terriers, man, they are playing some really good defense right now.
I know we talk about the depth that Christ the King has, but how about St. Francis Prep? They don't have the depth, but they always have somebody else besides Anthony and Pasquarelli stepping up and making their presence felt. And they go through waves, St. Francis Prep, and that's why they're so difficult to beat. Merchant
is so good from beyond the arc. He knocks down his first triple of this game, and we are tied at 31.
I remember he was a player that didn't play a lot earlier in the year, played himself into the rotation. Arbitello says he's a guy that can win him some games, and knocking down the tray, and a good block by Pong.
Yeah, he affected that Faison shot. So 31 all. Kinfon looks to go the entire way. He'll get it, and the foul as Chen was called for the infraction.
Well, you know, we talk about the high major offers that we want to see from Sacco. Well, this guy's already got some high major offers. Going at Chen, there's not really much Chen can do. Try and draw the charge. He was underneath the basket, and Pong Kinfong to get three the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, we've said it before, a guy who has bought in to this system here at Christ the King, and he is reaping the benefits both in terms of his ability this year, but also in terms of those collegiate offers as well. Didn't have any at the end of his sophomore season, and a whole host of them now from Fordham and GW, Illinois, Iona, Marist, Michigan, among others. Rutgers, St. John's in the mix as well. Veer Anthony inside, back out. Sacco's three, no good. Anthony tried to affect the rebound, but it went to Kinfong. We are now inside the final minute of the first half. It's a 3-point lead for the Royals. Oliver, Vanterpool, front rim. He's not knocked down a triple just yet. Michelle looks to push, splitting a couple of Royals. The putback is good by Sacco.
Good job following the play, 4-second differential.
Pierce hit by Sacco. Look at the strength by Pierce.
You talk about a Mack truck. I mean, he just plays like a freight train running downhill. 1v1 with Sacco, who opted not to try and draw the charge, and Pierce with a chance to give his Royals a 2-possession lead and trying to lock it down going into the locker room.
Pierce now with 9. 37-33 lead for the Royals. Neither team really able to go on that big run just yet, right? We saw that run at the end of the first quarter by Christ the King. Timeout, St. Francis Prep, and then the Terriers took a 1-point lead into the break. Shot clock is off. Veer Anthony. Will they hold? It seems like they might here for the final. Maybe Jimmy Lynch doesn't want the halftime lead. they've been 0 for 2 as Michelle steps out for 3, no good. Rebound will stay with St. Francis Prep. That was Sacco getting his hands among a bevy of Royals.
Well, they got a good shot off. You want to get one here with 1.6 and go down only 1 possession into the locker room.
Look at this, open three, no good, side rim. And it is halftime here, and it is the Royals with a 37-33 lead. Halftime here at Christ the King. We are joined by Royals head coach Joe Arbitello. And Joe, a run there at the end of the first quarter. St. Francis Prep responded. Big end of this first half for you guys. What do you think of the way your guys played in the first half?
I think they're playing hard. They're playing together. Prep's good, Feel like there's a lot of contact down there with our big guys.
What have you seen out of Bryce Merchant coming on? I know there's been a lot of contact, but for him to come off the bench, give you some
I mean, he shoots. He's a senior. He's a leader, So he'll rebound. He'll get the ball where it needs to go, Make sure that we're switching the right way on defense.
What do you want to see from your guys in the second half?
I mean, just the same toughness, Hopefully a couple more defensive stops would be nice. They're good, They're good. They're well coached. That's the kind of game that you're going to be in when you're playing them.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you the pregame ceremony, Jose Alvarado. What has he meant to this program, and how cool was that for you able to honor him with his Pelican teammates as well?
It's amazing, man. It just shows how much he's liked. I could use him right now, like the sub him for the game. Josh might still score, though. Who knows? All right, guys.
All right, Joe. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
It's Joe Arbitello, Christ the King head coach. His Royals lead 37-33 at the break. We'll take a quick timeout. You're watching the Brooklyn Queens championship game presented by Maspeth Federal Savings right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
St. Francis Prep prepares young men and women for the world of tomorrow by immersing them in the Franciscan tradition's 4 golden links: intellectual, social, spiritual, and physical. Facilities that are second to none. Teachers who instruct and inspire. Values of peace, love, and respect for the individual, community, and environment. High school is 4 years. St. Francis Prep is forever.
Varsity Media offers live streaming, videography, and photography services for all teams and individuals of all ages. In business since 2010, we are the trusted source when it comes to sports media coverage. If you have a big game that needs to be filmed or live streamed, or an athlete in need of action photography, reach out today and save 15% when you mention this ad. Contact us at 516-403-2050 or email ben@varsitymedia.net.
Welcome back to Middle Village Queens, Christ the King High School halftime here of the Brooklyn Queens championship game, a 37-33 lead for the Royals. Dylan Butler, John Perez here with you, and a busy couple of days, weeks for us here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. We go from Christ the King here off of Metropolitan Avenue, and we will be off of Murdoch Avenue tomorrow afternoon for Mount St. Michael. Top 2 seeds made it there as well. It's the Cardinals of Cardinal Hayes and Archbishop Stepinac, the Crusaders. The 7th meeting between these two teams in the past 2 years. They are 3-3. This is game 7.
Yeah, and it'll mean something. It'll mean a championship for them, which is something that Stepinac won last year, but Cardinal Hayes winning the big one. And, these two teams meeting, about a week ago or 10 days ago now, and Ian Jackson putting on a show up in White Plains. I can't wait for that one. Boogie Fland. If you are, like I said, if you are a college basketball fan and you can't wait to see these guys next year, well, watch them on the Varsity Media Sports Network and subscribe everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, at Varsity Media. It's going to be a show this weekend, and I mean, look at the rest of the catalog too, Dylan. I don't think there's going to be one game that you don't want to watch.
Yeah, we'll be up at Rose Hill Gymnasium for the A and the B championships. Nazareth, the team, the only undefeated team in Class A. Might you see them again? We saw them a year ago lose to Fordham Prep in the championship game. The AA quarterfinals, all 4 games on the 5th. We'll have those games, then the scene shifts to the corner of Utopia Parkway and Union Turnpike. St. John's University, Carnesecca Arena. Semifinals on Wednesday night, March 8th, and then the big one, the intersectional championship game, Sunday at 1 o'clock, right there from St. John's. We'll take a quick break here from Middle Village. Again, 37-33 the lead for Christ the King over St. Francis Prep. And this, the Brooklyn Queens championship game, presented by Maspeth Federal Savings right here in the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Gene Sterator, CBS Rules Analyst and longtime sports official. For the adults watching this video, you grew up in a world where officials, umpires, and referees for youth sports took their place regularly and reliably ahead of game time. Today, unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder to fill those jobs. Videos showing abusive treatment of officials multiply on social media. And there have been consequences for the dreadful behavior of players, fans, and coaches. Massive shortages of officials now lead to games being canceled, and the positive effects of athletic competition are at critical risk for this generation and those to come. I'm hoping we all can begin to see youth competition through a different lens. Today, mistreatment of officials has become normalized, and we are facing an abnormal future where no officials to hire means no games on the schedule.
Any call, any decision, any human effect on wins and losses has become subject to not just withering criticism, but physical threats. There's a vicious cycle at work. Fans chase away officials, and there is a smaller pool to draw from, which makes it harder to get quality, well-trained people in position. The entire game suffers.
Did you know, according to the National Federation of High Schools, 80% of new officials quit the game after just 2 seasons because of abusive behavior from the stands and sidelines? This sort of verbal abuse and threatening behavior takes a toll on all officials and makes them leave the game altogether.
Did you know, from 2018 to 2022, an estimated 50,000 high school referees, roughly 20%, have quit. Half of the remaining referee population is at least 50 years.
We welcome you back to Christ the King High School here in Middle Village, Queens. Halftime here. It's Christ the King with a lead. We are joined by Jose Alvarado, the Jose chants. We're back here in Middle Village. And Jose, thanks for joining us here at halftime. Dylan Butler, John Perez with you. And your jersey retired. You know about this rich history here at Christ the King, man. That's got to be humbling to be the only guy to have that jersey retired.
For sure. You know, I mean, obviously I know that number got a lot of great players that wear that, especially in this building. So for me to just get that recognition, you know, it's a humble experience, man, and a bless, you know, to come back here not only being in the NBA, but come back here and see everybody, same faces, and and have my jersey retired is pretty amazing. And Christ King is literally legit like my family. Like, this is like another living room to me. So my mom and dad feel like home here. My brother, everybody. So it's just good to have this experience.
Jose, you always talk about how you're not the most athletic, or you're not going to jump out of the gym, but Arbs always says how hardworking you are. How much did Christ the King impact you as a player and cultivate and help you with that hard work?
I mean, it made me who I am. That's part of my journey. They made me grow as a person. They made me grow as a player, and they did a tremendous job. They do a tremendous job with kids here. It's not a student. They're human beings here, and they take care of you. So they did it was a big part of why I'm so good now.
You want to suit up?
Nah. This is their time. They got to win it.
Jose, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I mean, the MVP, the rising stars. I mean, this journey that you've had is like a movie script. What's this feeling like for you right now?
You said it's a movie script. I can't really describe it. It's a blessing. Like you said, I ain't told I ain't doing it, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the city. I'm doing it for the family, and it's an honor, for this whole journey. So. Hopefully got a lot more going. It's only my second year, so I need to keep it going and, keep building memories.
Once a Royal, always a Royal, with the words from Jose Alvarado. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, take care.
Good luck going forward.
And getting some grief too from Arbitello saying we're interrupting his game, so we apologize for that.
Listen,
but
I got Steve Saluccio on my side. I told him to hold up a little bit. We're talking to the man right now. We thank Jose for joining us here at halftime. Second half underway. Terriers with the ball. Veer Anthony, hands off. Who needs the red hat, right? You just hold up for a second. We got a couple more questions to go.
Oh, when you've got Dylan Butler.
Pasquarelli.
And when you've got Josh Pasquarelli, you've got to be pretty happy. And, Arbitello is saying that Pasquarelli, one of those players that can score. He gets off on the right foot.
His fourth triple, first guy in double figures. A lot of guys with 9 points in that first half. Look at Gardner. You heard the words of Joe Arbitello saying there's a lot of physicality against my guys down low. Gardner bringing the physicality on that putback.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that draws the contact, is not afraid of it, and gets better for it. The issue is St. Francis Prep is not afraid to take a charge.
Veer Anthony puts the shoulder down, doesn't get it, and then the foul the other way. Foul called on Nigel Moore. That'll be his first and the team's first. And winner of this game will be the top seed out of Brooklyn, Queens. This is round 3. The first 2 rounds of the regular season went to the Royals. Miscommunication there between Oliver and Gardner. Turnover, it'll be St. Francis Prep ball.
Dylan, it's so hard to beat a good team 3 times in a year, and that's what Christ the King's going to have to do today, obviously, to win the BQ, and if they face St. Francis Prep in the latter stages of the intersectional, and St. Francis Prep is just so good, and like we said, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. They're a streaky team in the way that one player can take over for one period of a time and then somebody else steps up. So you're getting like a good streak from Sacco, a good streak from Pasquarelli, Veer Anthony. When you've got the numbers like that and the potency like that, it's going to be tough to beat. And Joe Arbitello has his hands full.
Should these teams meet again, it would likely be in the semifinals at St. John's. And you think there's a big crowd here tonight. I think Carnesecca Arena might have its largest crowd of the year when these two teams meet. A couple turnovers early on for both of these teams, and then a foul off the ball. It's going to be on TJ Oliver, his second. First half leading scorers, Willis Pearson, Kinfong with 9 apiece for the Royals, 8 for Vanderpool. You had Pasquarelli and Sacco with 9 each as well for the Terriers. Veer Anthony for 3. Good.
Don't let him get hot. Veer Anthony. Good job on the curl, something that he's worked on this year in the gym and making Christ the King pay. And Devin Vanderpool, probably has the best pro mindset and never gets anything, or is never phased, excuse me.
That's 10 now. Handoff doesn't work. Here's Kinfong the other way. Terrific defense by Sacco. Arbitello looking for the foul, not given. And Sacco saved 2 points there.
Yeah, not sure if we have the replay down low, and it could have been a hit on the wrist, but either way, Sacco just does so many things well, and St. Francis Prep doing a good job defensively as well, getting down the floor.
See Arbitello there having the conversation with Arnold Saunders about the non-call. Here's Pierce attacking the basket, and he was fouled on his way up. Fouled by Pasquarelli.
Well, Arbitello's got a gripe. You know, he does have... He's got an argument there that there has been a lot of contact, but eventually you have to adjust to the referees as well, and you want them to be consistent for the entire game. So having said that, I know he doesn't like the contact, but your players have to change that. As we see another replay here.
This is Pierce getting to the basket, fouled on the way there. He's got 10 now. Second is good as well. I'll tell you what, man, collectively, and I hope I'm not jinxing it here, but really both teams shooting it well from the foul line to this point. Anthony to Pasquarelli, attacks it on the baseline, and the foul. Everything Pasquarelli has done today has been a three-point play. He's looking for the old-fashioned one right now.
The player of the year, showing why he deserved it. The super senior, good job on the cut to the basket. Not easy to go amongst two of the better defenders in the borough in Vanterpool and Gardner, but Pasquarelli winning the battle.
Vanterpool's second, and it's Pasquarelli's first trip to the line here today. Rims around and in. 15 for Pasquarelli, a guy who averages just under 20 points per game. A lot of really good juniors in this league. Ian Jackson, Boogie Fland, chief among them, but Pasquarelli, the best senior. Michelle for three, no good. Look at the offensive rebound by Faison. It's Michelle now, baseline. Rims out, no good. Vanterpool gets the rebound. They look to push to Pierce. Pierce the step, the lefty layup. Count it.
Second or third time we've seen him this game just run the floor well, filling his lane. Good job drawing the contact. Good outlet pass by Vanterpool like a quarterback. And Christ the King so good switching hands, and it's not just Pierce, it's everybody. Collectively, one of the better teams that take care of the ball and just so crafty underneath the hoop.
Pierce completes the three-point play. 14 now for a guy who honed his skills there out in Amityville and Farmingdale area of Long Island. Look at a bounce pass. Faison. The look by Sacco.
St. Francis Prep has taken advantage of when Christ the King doesn't defend the rim. And you got Gardner caught between a rock and a hard place because he had to come out and help press, and that left the back door open.
Oliver. Man, these two teams, back and forth we go. 3-point lead. Not anymore. We are tied at 47. Another triple by Veer Anthony, his third of the game. And a blocking foul called underneath by on Sacco. It'll be his third.
Yeah, Sacco shuffling his feet so didn't set them to draw the charge. And Gardner will take advantage of that every day of the week.
So Chen at the scorer's table, surely to replace Sacco, who just picked up his third. Here's Gardner to the line for the first time today. Tonight, I should say. 73% from the foul line this season. Knocks down the first. As we said earlier, Gardner, A guy not somehow on one of those first 3 teams in the all-league selection. We'll show you those when we get a chance later on in the broadcast. Gardner goes 1 of 2 from the line. But someone with his athletic ability and size can do so much, and it's something that will certainly translate to the Big East next year and beyond. Faison, 1-point lead for the Royals. It's now Pasquarelli. Back rim, no good. And it's Vanderpool going the other way. Vanderpool for 3. He's not been able to knock those down. Normally, such a terrific three-point shooter. Ooh, look at this. A push called on Gardner. It'll be his 4th.
And that's just a foul that Gardner wishes he didn't commit. You can't commit it in that spot. And now he's got to sit for the rest of the quarter and probably, that's, you just can't pick up that foul right there.
We'll mark it down, I guess, right? 1-point lead for Christ the King, 3:23 left in the third. What will that foul do to this game? 10 on 10. Anthony steps into the lane. Short. Here comes the other 10. Oliver. Nearly lost a little helter-skelter. The alley-oop, and Vanderpool with the layup.
So smooth, good awareness there, and Christ the King with great chemistry.
Corner 3. Tyler Michelle knocks it down. 32nd timeout called by St. Francis Prep.
Every time that Christ the King has made a statement, St. Francis Prep has answered back. And once again, knocking in the 3 from the corner, a fantastic job by St. Francis Prep. Christ the King didn't get back, and we've already seen this the entire season. If you give St. Francis Prep some space, they'll hit their open jumpers, and they did so again on that one. So Christ the King, they have to regroup. You've got the 30-second timeout by Arbitello. I know he's not happy with some of the fouls that are being called, but they'll have to come out of those murky waters.
The CHCA basketball playoffs are sponsored by Leeds Brown Law, defending you against workplace discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination. 50 all, 2:55 left, third quarter. Tremendous game to this point. Here is Vanderpool. And again, off the timeout, St. Francis Prep picking up a little bit pressure here. Pierce using that wingspan to get out of it. Gets it to Bryce Merchant in the lane, in and out. Here comes Fear Anthony the other way. Anthony, Oliver, hand in the passing lane. Kinfong loses it. Probably should have been called for a traveling violation, but no harm, no foul. The turnover regardless. Here is Veer Anthony. Anthony kicks it out. That's where Michelle knocked it down a moment ago. Extra pass. No. Faison said, I'm going to take it. Missed it. Anthony, a second chance. Faison in and out. Merchant in for the rebound, and he was fouled.
That's probably the only thing that Faison did wrong in that sequence, was just not knock down the 3, but he had the open look, did a good job defensively, poking Pong free, and we've seen what he's been able to do on the 1-2-1 pressing defense as well, and we see another press from the Terriers.
This is a 2-2-1 variety. Vanderpool gets out of it, but he gets fouled. Foul on Faison. Second. Team's 6, so the next foul as Ramirez checks back in the game for Kinfong will send the Royals to the line for the single bonus. Vanderpool to inbound underneath. 2:05 left. Faked it. Ooh. Yeah. Great look there. Steve Salucio all over it. On the faked pass, John stepped in and over the baseline, so a turnover for Christ the King.
No, you know what that was, Dylan? That was good defense by St. Francis Prep, closing down another passing lane. Vanderpool didn't want to have the turnover committed, but unfortunately, those feet stepping over the line.
Faison to Chen. Good cut by Pasquarelli. Michelle again seems to love that baseline. Look at Pasquarelli keeping the play alive, and Chen knocks it down from the baseline.
Well, Chen doing a good job slapping it off of the Christ the King defender and then getting the pass back and knocking it over, and first lead in quite a while for St. Francis Prep.
A 2-point lead here inside the final 90 seconds of the third quarter. Oliver to Pierce. Pierce jump step in the lane, off glass and in. 16 for Pierce. Oh! Pierre Anthony telling you where the weight room is at St. Francis Prep 2. And the foul.
He has come to play today. Pierre Anthony muscling inside. He knocked down some threes before. And when you have a shooter like Anthony, you have to get ready for him to hoist. And because of that, he can drive to the lane, get the bucket, and three the old-fashioned way.
Free throw, no good. So the lead is still 2. Here's Ramirez ahead of the field. Ramirez swings it. Three-pointer in the corner, no good. Chen the rebound. Outlet to Faison inside the final minute of the third quarter. It's the Brooklyn Queens championship game here from Middle Village, Queens. Dylan Butler, John Perez with you on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Pasquarelli down low. Chen turns, gets it to roll. His first 4 points of this game have been huge in this third quarter. And again, 2-2-1 press, and the Royals throw it away.
And this is what I'm talking about the streakiness or the hot hand for St. Francis Prep. Who has it? Well, Chen's got 4 of the last 7. And, of course, when you've got your automatics in Pasquarelli and Anthony, that's what makes St. Francis Prep deep, even though they don't have the numbers that Christ the King has.
4-point lead for St. Francis Prep. Shot clock is off. The Terriers here can hold for the final shot of this third quarter. And the thing about them, and honestly the same about Christ the King, is, yeah, they've got a guy in Pasquarelli who's the player of the year, but you are comfortable with any of these 5 taking that final shot. 5, here's Chen losing it, and that's a foul. Ooh, look at this. Because he grabbed the jersey, an intentional foul there on Vanterpool.
You know, that's one of those that you just can't commit there. You let Vanterpool, who, listen, probably will score, but have him try and beat the clock. It's not a given. As the officials will talk it over now.
Here you see it again. Watch.
This is where you
from behind.
Right, yeah, we don't have the clock in that shot, and that's fine. But either way, there was, about 3 seconds, and now there's 3 seconds on the board. But
and look, you can see his jersey here. He just came by us. Vanterpool did. Half the jersey is ripped.
Here we go, Dylan. So so there's 3 seconds left. The odds of Vanterpool getting all the way down the floor and scoring, you take those odds if you're St. Francis Prep.
So here's part of the issue here. Vanterpool needs a new jersey, but he's got to take these free throws as well. So I guess the officials will let him take the shots. There, there's a great look of it there by Ron Pierre.
Yeah.
An airy jersey. It's a little bit warm in this gym, so maybe that feels good. We know he's been working out, and here comes.
Well, I was going to say give him the number 10, but Oliver still has it.
All right, so we'll get the change of jersey here. 3 seconds left, and Vanterpool will go to the line. So we're being informed by Arnold Saunders. The jersey changed. The number is 34 now for Vanterpool. He goes from 22 to 34.
Well, Paul Pierce, Shaquille O'Neal. I'm trying to think of other great 34s, but.
And I thought you go in the Christ the King lore. If you knew of another great 34, I know I'm putting pressure on you right now, but.
Oh boy, I remember 34 my year. I believe was Justin Kirkland, but it's definitely not who you're talking about.
Well, I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just asking in general.
Oh no, I don't.
And he'll knock down both. So we'll see how this changes the game a little bit, right? Knocks down both. It'll, though, still be Christ the King ball off that intentional foul. So Oliver will inbound at half court, and still with three seconds, plenty of time to get that last shot off. Merchant blocked by Pasquarelli, so that shot will not materialize. So after all that, St. Francis Prep with a 2-point lead going into the fourth and final quarter. What a night it's been here at Christ the King. Jose Alvarado having his number retired. His jersey to be awarded. Who will lift it? We'll find out perhaps after the next 8 minutes here in Middle Village, Queens. It's the Brooklyn Queens Championship game presented by Maspeth Federal Savings right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Varsity Media offers live streaming, videography, and photography services for all teams and individuals of all ages. In business since 2010, we are the trusted source when it comes to sports media coverage. If you have a big game that needs to be filmed or live streamed, or an athlete in need of action photography, reach out today and save 15% when you mention this ad. Contact us at 516-403-2050 or email ben@varsitymedia.net.
We are back here in Middle Village, Queens. Christ the King High School, just behind Dwayne Pierce. You see the shiny trophy, John Perez, that is on the line here. Which of these two teams from Queens will lift it? Perhaps that answer comes in the next 8 minutes. 2-point lead for St. Francis Prep, the newly minted 34. Vanderpool, new number, same results, gets to the basket.
Boy, he's been the truth for Christ the King this year and doing a good job slicing to the basket and tying the ball game up at 56.
Will somebody please sign Devin Vanderpool? You are going to get a terrific player on the next level. Pasquarelli loses it, and it's Merchant. Kinfong, ooh, he's hit hard, no foul called, and Pierce will finish at the basket.
Got away with steps either way. Christ the King will take it.
58-56 now the lead for Christ the King. Pierre Anthony creates the separation. Hal Chen for three, short. Tyler Michelle in the corner wanted that ball. 18 now for Pierce. There he is on the ball. Going to Iowa State. Had a lot of offers, a lot of opportunities. Chose Iowa State. Kinfong for three, off the mark. Pierce made that commitment in a nationally televised game. Look at the alley-oop, and Pasquarelli.
Are you kidding me? I thought they had nothing on that, and that just shows the acrobatics of Pasquarelli. And now Brandon Gardner coming to the table to shore up the defense, so he and his 4 fouls will come in at the next stoppage of play.
17 for Pasquarelli. Pierce losing it, Chen affecting it. And you wonder, with Gardner coming back in, will we see Sacco as well? Oliver drives. No foul. Kinfong, second opportunity, gets the putback.
Tough spot for Chen to box out, especially when Pong has a couple of inches and probably 30 pounds on him.
11 for him now. It's still a 2-point lead for Christ the King. And a foul off the ball. Foul on Bryce Merchant. A hold off the ball. Off the ball, I should say, first in the team's fifth. And yes, as we said, Sacco back in as well as Gardner. Gardner with 4 fouls, Sacco with 3. There is Big O, the freshman, hands off to Pierre Anthony. Anthony splits defenders. What a look down low, and Sacco picks up where he left off.
A big for a big, and Sacco, fantastic job down low.
11 now for Sacco, tied at 60. We're not charting it here at the table, but so many ties, so many lead changes as well in this one. Might we have another one here? And this game has lived up to the advanced billing as well. Tremendous basketball game here in front of a packed house at Christ the King High School. Faison to Veer Anthony. Michelle swings it. Sacco says, I'm going to take it and bury it. Oliver responds, but in that chance, you go 2 for 3 there, so it's a 1-point lead for the Terriers.
I just want to, I want to give roses to everybody with the way that we've seen these two play and how they've grown as student athletes over the year.
Steal by Pierce. The junkyard dog goes the other way. Pierce fouled on his way up by Veer Anthony. For Anthony, that is his third.
And Dylan, one thing too, and keeping note here, Christ the King doing a good job treading water with Brandon Gardner on the bench with 4 fouls. Outscored St. Francis Prep 12-11 before he came back on. So a good job by Christ the King of sitting tight. And when it comes to St. Francis Prep now, obviously you don't want to give away fouls. You don't want to put Christ the King on the line, but you want to keep your stars on the floor. And you know what? For St. Francis Prep, this is the interesting that I want to see. When it came down to the Cardinal Hayes loss, I felt that players like Pasquarelli, Veer Anthony was out of that game, obviously, but then, it became a lot of secondary players for St. Francis Prep. So having said that, what does St. Francis Prep do? Now, Sacco's got the hot hand, but do you keep feeding him? Remember, he's only a freshman. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, let's not have a Sacco watch per se, and that we're in that St. Francis Prep is just leaning on him and to be the only player to save them. They still have to continue to share the rock and make winning plays and change the attitude from playing not to lose into playing to win, something that has plagued them against Christ the King this year.
20 for Dwayne Pierce, was mentioning earlier, had that commitment here, national television against Stepinac. They lost that game. They have not lost since. Tyler Michelle for 3. Front rim no good. Loose ball rebound. Looks like it went off Sacco. Now it's tracked down by Kinfong, and the Royals look to push. And fouled on his way was Pierce. Fouled by Michelle. It's his third. Team's at 9th. So Pierce, fresh off those made free throws, back to the line for the single bonus. 8 of 8. Dwayne Pierce on the foul line here tonight.
It's going to make a lot of fans at Iowa State so happy with just his grittiness. We can talk about his ability and what he's able to do on the floor, but one thing that Christ the King has continuously churned out, by example, Jose Alvarado, is hustlers and players that are going to continue to go the extra mile. And that's something that Christ the King has in a player like Dwayne Pierce.
Timeout by St. Francis Prep, 3:55 left. Right around the corner, John Perez, the intersectional championships, and we'll take a look at the live bracket. I say live because Holy Cross beat Mount St. Michael here before this game, so they advance to the next round. There you see the matchups. What we don't know yet is BQ 1 and 2 and New York 1 and 2. Those will be decided in these two games here between Christ the King St. Francis Prep and, of course, tomorrow's Archdiocesan championship game between Stepinac and Cardinal Hayes.
I'm trying to find a bad matchup here. You can't. It just goes to show how big time the league has been and how balanced it's been. And Zavarian St. Peter's, Kadir Martin versus Naz Muhammad, who...
You hope Naz is healthy?
Yes, of course. But, Aaron Goldstein, Don Colon, Rodriguez over at Iona Prep, Malloy, St. Ray's and Bishop Laughlin always give each other fits. It's going to be a fun opening round in the intersection.
And the quarterfinals will be great. We'll have all the quarterfinal games, semifinals, and the championship all right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Hit subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel. There you see the upcoming slate here for Varsity Media. All these games also title sponsor, Maspeth Federal Savings. We thank them so much for that. By the way, located right across from Rose's Pizza.
Dylan, well, go. I lost the bet. It's fine. I'll go. You don't have to twist my arm.
Sacco, top of the key. Again, Terriers have always responded well off of timeouts. I think it's partly the sign there of a terrific head coach. Back out for Veer Anthony. Anthony inside, forced it a bit there to Sacco, but the ball will stay with St. Francis Prep. 8 on the shot clock.
St. Francis Prep getting lucky that that hit off a Christ the King finger. That's a tight window. Anthony, he does a lot of things good. That's a tight window to throw it into.
Saw some jerseys being pulled, some physicality on both ends here. Both these teams really looking to win it. Lucio calls a foul there. The foul is on Vanderpool.
So Lucio almost drew a charge, too, the way he was going into that play. Almost got knocked out by a couple of these specimens.
He'll battle. He'll battle in there. There's no doubt.
Scrappy player in his day.
3-point lead. And Arnold Saunders just making sure. 6th team foul against the Royals. So the next will also send St. Francis Prep to the line. Anthony looks for someone inside. Shot clock reset there. Pasquarelli, front rim, no good. Michelle inside. Look at the offensive rebounding by the Terriers. But Sacco called for the foul.
That's a tough foul to make. There's a lot of contact. Watch Pong Kin Fong, number 13, underneath defensively, altering the shot. Might have had some contact there. But either way, Christ the King defensively holding strong.
So here comes Pierce back to the line. Again, has been spectacular, really all game, but also especially here from the charity stripe, knocks down his first. If you are curious for the season, Pierce averaging 74% from the line. That number will no doubt at least inch up a little bit here from tonight's performance. Jinxed him. That's his first miss from the foul line. Knocked down his first 12. Those are like Boogie Fland-esque numbers. We saw that from the Stepanak Jr. in that first matchup against Cardinal Hayes. 12 of 12 from the line. Pasquarelli will also go to the line.
Yeah, that Flan guy's pretty good. I'm curious to see if he's got a basketball future. No, but in all seriousness, yeah, Flan has been one of the fantastic players. But how about the job of Pasquarelli moving without the ball underneath? And
so Gardner getting set to check back in this game after this first free throw by Pasquarelli. And what a story it's been for Pasquarelli as well, right? A guy who was a second-team All-League player a year ago who was known as one of the better three-point shooters, right? He had to kind of go behind Jaden Daughtry and Latique Briscoe, but now he's been the man this year, and he's lived up to that moniker as well. A lot of expectations on Pasquarelli, and he's been great.
And you want a player that wants those expectations, because there's no harsher critic for Josh Pasquarelli than Josh Pasquarelli.
Anthony, nearly the steal, and now comes Oliver the other way. What a pass, Kin Fong, count it, and the foul.
Well, that's one of those high-risk, high-rewards for St. Francis Prep, and unfortunately couldn't get the steal. Christ the King has the numbers, and there's not much that Hao Chen can do, because he has to commit to Oliver, couldn't set his feet. And Pong Kin Fong stumbling down the floor for the end one.
He was so huge down the stretch for Christ the King in that semifinal win over Zavarian. It was the Clippers who led by 9 at halftime. High arcing free throw is good by Kin Fong. 14 now for Kin Fong. and it's a 5-point lead for Christ the King. We take a look, John Perez, at the recent champions here in Brooklyn, Queens. You see St. Francis Prep beating Laughlin a year ago, and Zavarian before that. Laughlin and Zavarian. Christ the King, we mentioned that game before their last championship against Malloy. So many terrific matchups and games to remember in the Brooklyn Queens Championship.
I'm trying to remember the year where Laughlin beat Christ the King. I think it was, if I'm right, the 2018 season, where Keith Williams made 3 free throws to force it into overtime, and Laughlin would go on to beat Christ the King. I mean, there's just so much talent in the Brooklyn Queens. You can't go wrong with any of these teams, and not a lot of parity. But having said that, a chance for St. Francis Prep to do something that no team hasn't done in a while, a three-peat.
Talking about talent, let's take a look at some of the All-League players this year in the Catholic League. We'll start here with the big guns. The first team, Ian Jackson, Boogie Flan, Nazir Muhammad from Zavarian, Brandon Stores at St. Ray's, A.J. Rodriguez, Elijah Moore. So many of these guys back for next year. Second team, All-League as well. There you see Kadir Martin. What a performance from him out of St. Peter's after transfer from Curtis. Vanderpool, Ja'Kai Sanders from Laughlin, Jaden James from Malloy, Brandon Williams, Ty Turnage out of St. Ray's. Third team, All-League. There you see Pierce, Blaze New out of Iona, Jabari Phillip from Scanlon, Rodriguez, Goldstein as well.
Can't really go wrong there with any of those teams.
Although I didn't want to leave out a guy who could be one of the players of this game. Kinfong was that other player on that third team. Off the timeout, there's the 3 by Faison. Another way, Ramirez, no good. Here comes Vier Anthony. 2-point deficit for St. Francis Prep. Vier Anthony checks the rear view, pulls it back out.
Good job by Sacco to alter that shot by Ramirez as well.
Approaching 2 minutes left, fourth quarter. Only 2 points separate these two rivals. Michelle, what a spin inside for the basket.
Not much that Oliver could have done as he ties it at 7-day. And Arbitello calls a timeout.
Michelle with 9 now. Of course, the player of the year we mentioned before in the Catholic League, there he is, Joshua Pasquarelli. What a year for the senior. What a game he's had as well. And we mentioned before about living up to that moniker. And Coach of the Year goes to Joe Arbitello as well. Picked up his 300th career win, 15 seasons. I think it's amazing. Just 15 years for he and Joe Loads out of Cardinal Hayes. Only separated by like 1 or 2 wins at this point. Coach of the Year this year, well-deserved for Joe Arbitello.
Yeah, congratulations to Arbitello. Can't believe it's already been 15 years.
Your former teacher.
Yes, freshman year. My former teacher here at Christ the King. And, of course, for all you fans out there, make sure, if you haven't subscribed yet, come on, what are we doing out here? Is this amateur hour? Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Varsity Media, and subscribe on YouTube at varsitymedia.com or youtube.com/varsitymedia.
You get the idea. 1:59 left. Not a seat to be had here at Christ the King. There are lines behind the baseline. I think it's a good thing the local fire marshal isn't here. Or maybe he is enjoying the action. Who knows? Pierce gets it out to the former number 22, 34. Vanderpool looks to create the separation. Vanderpool nearly blew a tire. To Kinfong. Chen on him. 8 on the shot clock. Oliver. On top. Kinfong for 3. No good. Loose ball. Who gets the rebound? Vier Anthony. And now the Terriers will look to hold a little bit here. Use some of that shot clock.
And get the best shot that you can. Don't force anything.
Vier Anthony nearly stolen by Kinfong. Open, Pasquarelli for 3. Rims out, no good. Look at Pierce skying Now the Royals look to push. Kinfong. Chen affects the shot, but he's called for the foul, and that will be his 5th and final foul.
It's not an easy task to go up against Kinfong Pong, and unfortunately Chen will pick up his 5th here. You go for the ball, it's a good play.
You mentioned it before, John, too. I think one of the things about Kinfong, too, is he's so unpredictable going to the pass. He's so herky-jerky. He could hook it to his left, he could hook it to his right. Like, I don't even know if he knows what he's doing half the time.
Well, and he could yam on you as well.
Missed a critical free throw. $14 for Kinfong. If it's 15, the Royals will have the lead with 61 seconds left. And they do.
And Christ the King wants to press, too. Not make it easy for Prep to get up the floor.
Good timeout by St. Francis Prep. We mentioned before the Brooklyn Queens bracket. We'll show it to you again how we got here in this matchup. Started with the 3-6 game with Malloy and Holy Cross. There you see a tight win for Malloy over Holy Cross. Then St. Francis Prep beating Malloy for a 3rd time this year as a variant and Lachlan. And then the Clippers, Clyde Chapman's Clippers, giving Christ the King all they could handle here in Middle Village. An overtime win for Christ the King in that one. CK trailed by 8 at the half. Pong gave him a lead in the 4th. Aaron Goldstein knocked down a triple to force overtime. But Kinfong, another big basket, the flush in overtime. Vanderpool, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Gardner, 15, 10, and 4. Kinfong, 12 points. Pierce, 8. Oliver, 6 points, 8 rebounds. It's been that kind of game, that kind of season for Christ the King as well.
Yeah, it's just been, that's why they have all the hardware, and that's why they are historically the best team in the Catholic League. They find ways to win.
I don't think those are all the boys' championships, though. Plenty of girls' basketball championships as well. Bob Mackey certainly leading the charge. It is, they have arguably the greatest players in women's basketball, right?
And I'd argue the best high school girls basketball coach in the nation.
You had Sue Burge, Mika Holsklaw, of course, 2 of the greatest to play the game on the women's side. Inside the final minute here. Sacco, 1-point lead for Christ the King. Anthony spins in the lane, rejected, put back by Sacco. 72-71 lead for St. Francis Prep. The difference in the shot to game clock is barely anything. Timeout, 30-second timeout by Christ the King. 0.7 the difference between shot and game clock.
Well, good job by Arbitello calling the timeout. The one thing about Arbitello is that he never calls timeouts. That's been one of the knocks on him. And he says the reason he doesn't call timeouts is because, 1, he wants his teams to battle through adversity, but 2, have them at the end of the game. So what I'm looking at now, Dylan, you're down by 1. If St. Francis Prep locks down Christ the King on the entry pass, you can call a timeout. You can find a different way and draw up different plays. And trying to sneak a peek in there, but Arbitello playing it close to the vest. Interested to see if they go to Pong or they go to Vanderpool. That would be my 1-2 punch. Try and draw some contact and get to the free throw line.
We mentioned it with St. Francis Prep at the end of that first half. Same is true here, right? I mean, 5 different options here, really, to be honest. Maybe the 5th being Oliver, but still, Pierce and Vanderpool, all these guys have been gamers throughout this season. Jose Alvarado standing baseline. He can't sit down to watch this. Chance of defense by the St. Francis Prep crowd. Oliver. Vanderpool. We're inside 10 seconds left in the fourth. Vanterpool to the basket, and he's fouled on his way. It's on Sacco, who picked up his fifth.
That's the play you want to draw up. Good job by Arbitello giving it to one of your crafty veterans. Let's take another look. Vanterpool wants the ball. Good screen by Pong. Goes to the rim, drawing the contact. And he's just so polished because he knows if he draws that contact, there's a chance that a foul could be called. And someone who's so mature at the free throw line, too.
16 points for Ousmane Sacco. He will foul out. Nigel Moore will replace him. And a St. Francis Prep team that is already not the biggest, lost pretty much all their size with Hao Chen, the 6'5 sophomore, and Ousmane Sacco, the 6'7 freshman, both fouling out.
As long as Veer Anthony, Josh Pasquarelli are on the floor, St. Francis Prep will always be in the game.
Vanterpool, a 79% free throw shooter. He's only been to the line once, knocked down both in the third quarter. First is good. We are tied at 72. "17 points for Devin Vanterpool. Second is good. And a timeout called by St. Francis Prep. That is their final timeout with 6.3 seconds left.
Devin Vanterpool is that guy. Cool, calm, collected. Money for Big DV. In some new threads, and he's ready to play defense as well. He's so locked in.
All right, so we talked about the options for Christ the King before. There's options for St. Francis Prep as well, but you obviously have the player of the year. Now, you know Vanterpool will be all over him. Foul situation, the Royals have 7. So it's not like you can get a gimme,
right,
like a quickie, and have them reset. That'll send the Terriers to the line. So you can't foul here if you are Christ the King. You've got to go length of the court. So let's see who will take this shot for St. Francis Prep.
Christ the King is up defensively.
Josh Pasquarelli, 3 seconds. Pasquarelli, 2, loses it to Pierce. Ball game. Christ the King has won the Brooklyn Queens Diocesan Championship, and John Perez defense wins championships. Dwayne Pierce brought it on that final possession.
Dwayne Pierce, the play of the game, stripping the player of the year. Are you kidding me? How about those hands? Oh, man. What a great job defensively by Pierce on Jose Alvarado night. No less. He knows a thing or two about winning big ball games. And Christ the King, congratulations to them. Much earned at the end of this one. And you know what? For St. Francis Prep, don't hang your heads. They played a heck of a game. Pasquarelli, you want to get it to your best player. They did so. St. Francis Prep will be back.
There's no doubt about that. Brooklyn Queens champions, Christ the King. Their 12th Brooklyn Queens championship since 1996 in their 15th appearance. That is remarkable in its own, right? We talked earlier about Joe Arbitello and his record in elimination. This was not an elimination game, right? But it's a championship game, and more often than not, certainly Joe Arbitello has the Royals on the winning end of those games.
He's just cultivated a winning culture here. And he's gotten players that have never been afraid to step up, take a chance, and make the big play. How about Pierce? That's a high-risk play to make, Dylan, especially the way the game's been called the last couple of minutes. He sensed victory was on the line, poked his hand in there, and got the stop of the year for the Royals so far.
23 points on the game as well for Dwayne Pierce. And as you mentioned, no bigger play than on the defensive end there, stripping Pasquarelli on his way to the basket, making sure that Christ the King are the BQ champions. So we have a post-game ceremony. See Paul Gilveri there as well.
See Ron Pierre on the scene, too.
Oh, this is what he wants to show you.
That's right. Much deserved for Christ the King. It's a shame that somebody had to lose this game.
An incredible game. I mean, again, we came in thinking this would be a great game. It was a great game.
I agree. There's nothing to say, Dylan. There really is nothing to say. The game spoke for itself. What a finish. What just a fantastic finish by Christ the King. And you know what? It's so easy to have a letdown after an emotional victory over Zavarian and getting knocked in the mouth against them, going to overtime, getting the win. You think maybe there's some hangover there? Well, Christ the King at times struggled. They bended but did not break and stepped up when it came time to make the big play.
So St. Francis Prep getting the second, or the runner-up.
Yep.
Awards, not what they wanted when they came here today. They end up going 0 for 3 against Christ the King, but each game it felt like got closer, right? Like that first matchup, a 17-2, a 17-2 third quarter was huge for Christ the King. Closer game in Fresh Meadows, and as close as you could get here tonight in the BQ Championship.
Yeah, and it's tough to see the emotions on Josh Pasquarelli. I'll tell you what, I'll go to war with Josh Pasquarelli any day of the week. He was fantastic tonight, doing a great job up and down the floor, and just leaving it all out on the floor. 19 points. Unfortunately, it comes in a 1-point loss, but the great players, when things like this happen and adversity, it usually fuels them. Pasquarelli knows he's only got a handful of games left. His next loss will be his last. Therefore, it'll fuel him and the Terriers to what we think should be a deep run in the intersectional.
Yeah, the Terriers will await their quarterfinal opponent. They'll play either Iona Prep or Holy Cross. And man, if Holy Cross gets that win, battle of the Boulevard, round 3 up at Rose Hill. And there you see Jimmy Lynch along with Ray Nash to his right, Paul Gilveri to his left, getting the runner-up trophy. Back-to-back Brooklyn Queens Championships, 3 straight appearances as well for St. Francis Prep. So if there was any question of where St. Francis Prep was as a basketball powerhouse, they have proven it these last few years.
Yeah, and they're not going anywhere. They've got a great coach. They've got a great foundation. Fantastic freshmen. I can't wait to see what Sacco becomes, what Faison becomes, Michelle, even Nolan Raymond, who we didn't see a lot of. They've got some really good talent there.
Final scores for St. Francis Prep: Pasquarelli with 19, Sacco with 16, Veer Anthony with 13, Faison with 11. So 4 guys in double digits. And in fact, Michelle had 9. So really just a point away from 5 guys in double figure scoring. Christ the King now, the individual players being brought out for their individual awards. Christ the King will take on the winner of St. Ray's Bishop Lachlan in the quarterfinals.
They always find each other, don't they? They always find each other, whether it's CK Rays or CK Lachlan. Always. Always. And you know what? The person who always finds his way, Devin Vanderpool, who just came out, New Jersey and all, same dude, fantastic, getting the buckets, and oh man, what a talent he's been.
High scores for Christ the King. Dwayne Pierce led all scorers with 23. Devin Vanderpool with 18. Pong Kinfong with 15. Gardner had the foul trouble, only had 7. TJ Oliver with 6. And there you see Joe Arbitello getting ready to get the award. And there it is.
I wonder if we get a smile out of Joe.
You'll get it. Here it comes. First BQ championship since 2018. He's trying hard not to. There he goes. First BQ championship since 2018 for the Royals. Tremendous stuff. And there you see it. For Christ the King. Was not easy for sure, but a big win for the Royals. They are the top seed in the Brooklyn Queens. We will endeavor to get our player of the game. You see some of the celebrations on the court, the team photos. There's a lot of guys there taking pictures. Hey, we're on the other side of that.
Oh, yeah. Nope, they switched it on us. But either way, smiles all around for Christ the King. The first goal and what are 2 goals that they want to set in the month of February and March. And there's Jose Alvarado in there as well. And like we said, he's won a couple of those in his day.
Yeah, for Christ the King, we mentioned it before, the 12th Brooklyn Queens Championship. And I have to say, since 96, this is when they've changed the format. No doubt before that there were additional BQ championships. But since this format has changed, since 1996, it's been all about Christ the King. As we're going to bring in Dwayne Pierce. A tremendous game for Dwayne Pierce. We'll have him come on with us now post-game. And Dwayne, third battle with St. Francis Prep. They've been great. This one a 1-point win. I guess first question is, how does this feel to be Brooklyn Queens champion?
Oh man, this feeling is unreal because this team, these are my brothers. We went through so much adversity this year. Nobody had no faith in us this year. We started from rock bottom, and this is the best feeling ever, man.
I have to ask you about that final play. The player of the year comes charging down with a chance to win, and you make the play of the game. Take us through it.
First off, my God, Devin Vanderpool play his butt off. And he was a little banged up. I knew how to make a play for my brother. I know it was next man up. I had to stop the game. We need to win that game. And it's all about sacrifices, honestly.
What is it about this Christ the King culture that you guys this year have been able to be so unselfish and have also been able to make the big plays when it counts?
I think it's because we all trust each other. We have faith in each other. And everybody can do the same things. And it's like next man up, like I said. And yeah.
Dwayne, I take you back to January 22nd. At halftime, you make your announcement. You commit to Iowa State. You guys lose that game to Stepanak. You've not lost since. 10 straight wins. A lot of senior leadership among that as well. I mean, what is it? You maybe just mentioned it before, but this group, the resilience of this group, a lot of seniors, a lot of times you win with seniors. I mean, to bounce back from that tough loss, and you've not lost since?
I think that game, we knew we were supposed to win that game, but things happen. And like Coach Arp said, like if we have an undefeated season before the playoffs, it never really works out. So we needed that loss. Honestly, we played against a very well-coached team, very talented team with talented players. And yeah, it's happened, but use that as motivation. Next game, we just been going up since.
John mentioned the culture here at Christ the King. Jose Alvarado in the house, part of the celebration with you guys as well. How special was it to have him here and to have a guy, in your shoes, literally, right? Like a Royal of the past, now in the NBA. I mean, how cool was that?
It's amazing. Like, for him to come back, that's probably one of the best feelings ever because it's like he really cared about Christ the King. He once he's like he said, once a Royal, always a Royal. And everybody, including him, everybody come back, show love, give us tips, all types of advice, and yeah, it was just amazing.
Dwayne Pierce, congratulations on the Brooklyn Queens Championship. Best of luck in the intersectional playoffs as well. The Iowa State-bound senior.
He's got a smile that can light up the room,
junior,
too.
Excuse me. He's back again for more. Awesome stuff, Dwayne. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So final here from Middle Village, 73-72. Christ the King wins their 12th Brooklyn Queens championship since 1996, and they are the top seed out of Brooklyn Queens. We'll be with you tomorrow afternoon. John and I and this whole Varsity Media crew, we head up to the Bronx, Mount St. Michael for a doozy. Stepinac, Cardinal Hayes, they've got to either match or do better than tonight. The pressure's on Joe Lodes and Pat Massaroni to do that. I suspect we'll have a good game tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
You bet.
From Mount St. Michael. And there you see the rest of our slate as well. The A and the B championships as well from Fordham University. Doubleheader there, 6 and 8 o'clock on that Friday evening from Rose Hill. 4 games, all 4 quarterfinal games. Then the semifinals and finals from St. John's University. It's going to be a terrific ride. All of it's brought to you by Maspeth Federal Savings. Can't wait to get the intersectional started, but first the Archdiocesan coming up tomorrow afternoon. So that'll do it here from Middle Village, Queens for our entire Varsity Media crew. Of course, our executive producer, Ben Turchin, our technical director, Chris Sweeney. We brought the A-plus crew to Middle Village today. Angelo Caeso, Ron Pierre, bringing you all those terrific moving images. For John Perez, Dylan Butler, thanking you for joining us from Christ the King. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Varsity Media Sports Network.